Hello and welcome back to Not Alone. This is our third and final segment of the topic of fortitude. So we should do a brief recap. Jacob, you want to give a brief recap of what we talked to so I can lay off of Maria?
Yeah, sure. We just talked about just more about fortitude and how to persevere through different circumstances, and we talked about some of the instances in our life and as Catholics that we have to talk about, that we have to be a witness to others and evangelize, called to evangelize. And as well, we talked about how Jesus and his crucifixion is one of the ultimate signs and one of the ultimate things that points to and it demonstrates fortitude.
Yes,
how
that's a great recap. So I wanted to talk about fortitude in our own Catholic lives, because sometimes as Catholics we might get in like a bubble of like, oh, just what we believe in, but I think we have to understand all aspects of the faith. We have to really come to know God in every way. So being challenged even by other Catholics in what you believe in. Sometimes I'll find somebody who says that charismatic Catholics are all like crazy or something. And Jacob here, he's charismatic, and I love going to like charismatic conferences. I went to Steubenville really recently, and that was awesome. I loved that. That was really great. And Jacob and his dad are really involved in conferences like that. But I want to talk about, are you ever challenged as charismatics like by your specific belief in the faith?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like charismatic prayer can come off as weird. I know when I moved, I started like being charismatic once I moved to Michigan after I lived here in Ave. And when I first did that, I was like, what is this? This is crazy. Because I literally went straight to a camp. Like my parents, I got there, and then a day later, I left to a hugely charismatic camp that like, like the biggest thing all year. And it was like, at first I was like, what is this? People are like speaking in tongues. There's all these different things happening. And so I think it can be a little intimidating. And then as, I started praying into that and involving myself within that in worship and different things like that, I got used to it more and just saw the fruits and benefits of it, and like you said, kind of like doing your research and knowing that aspect of the faith. And so I think there has been times where I've definitely been challenged, or some people don't always see the fruits or see the worth of that, of like charismatic praise or whatever it may be. And this isn't just for charismatic, this is for a lot of different things with the faith.
I agree.
But I've definitely been challenged and had to explain to others or just lead by example, like we were talking about earlier, on just how that's another way to seek God and to draw closer to Him.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times we'll just try to challenge each other in these different ways that we can praise God, and it's just not supposed to be that way. So it takes a lot of fortitude to not only stand for what you believe in, but to accept what other people believe in as real teaching. And of course not like anything outside of Catholicism, but like, well, sometimes there can be really good insight outside of Catholicism, but still understanding what you believe in and understanding what others believe in. And maybe that's not your cup of tea. Maybe charismatic thing is not what you want to do, but maybe that's something that's really helpful for others and something you have to understand as well.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, it doesn't even have to just be in Catholicism. There is a lot of people that have truths and like great insight on that are not Catholic or anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem is they're missing. What's it like the really important stuff, but that doesn't mean that they don't have truth. There's a lot of things I've learned from people who are not Catholic.
Or, like in my Catholic education, I went to Donahue Academy here in Ave, and that's fully Catholic school and everything, and I learned pretty much only Catholic things. But then the one exception was C.S. Lewis, and he's a Protestant Christian, but there's so much we can learn from other people, even if they're not Catholic.
Yeah, I have to say, though, I think you have to be very careful,
of course,
especially our age, because we are still learning so much. And if you're not, none of us are like as strong in our faith as we could be or as we should be. So I think for people that are still trying to find their faith, it's better to stick with the knowledge that we have and the faith that we are in. Like, go to the saints And C.S. Lewis is amazing, obviously.
Yeah,
like,
of
I love
course.
him. And, like,
Yeah.
he is basically, I mean, he was so close to becoming a Catholic.
Uh-huh.
But I really do think you have to be so careful because, of course, there's so many people that have beautiful insights. But when it comes down to it, we have such a big difference in our faith than any other faith.
Well, yeah, that's why we have the doctrinal teachings.
Yes,
You know.
yeah, but even like reading the saint books instead of reading, it's hard because I've talked to so many people, and I went to a public school too, and people would just get so confused because, like Lutherans, for example, they're so close to our faith, and it's like, you're so close, but you really just have to know your faith so well before you go out and try to. You
true.
can't just start reading everyone else because it will confuse you in a way. It's
Yeah.
like being around people that aren't good for you necessarily. You will be affected by them, even though like they are helping you in different ways.
Right, of course, yeah.
Which it's beautiful. Sorry, I don't mean to like.
No,
Yeah,
totally
no. It's
but I think you have to be very, very careful.
it's just like a more expansive way to understand what you already understand.
Yes. Yeah.
So
What you
of course,
understand,
you
yeah.
have to know what you're talking about, know what you're reading, and discern if this is right. And of course, consult priests and stuff to talk about, or if you're being taught this by a teacher, of course, this is good to learn from them. But it's like within the church, within the Catholic Church, you have to understand certain truths are unmovable.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, there's certain things in the Catholic faith that we are like called to believe in, and that's part of being Catholic is you have to believe in those things, and then there's some things that are kind of like left
a little,
to each
But
person's beliefs.
Yeah, I think just going back to the fortitude or courage, it's just so beautiful because you have those truths, and even without having full knowledge, you are able to stand up for them and to say, like, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm fighting for, and I'm not going to hate you, or like, I still love you, but like, this is what I believe in.
Yeah,
You know?
and that
Absolutely.
takes fortitude
Yes,
to like
it's
to like
so hard.
to like
yeah.
not conform with someone else's beliefs, but still to love them and to choose to love them, even though whether they respond well or not to that. That takes. I know in my life I've had many times where I've had things like that where I had to do something or like cut off an unhealthy relationship or draw a boundary,
Wow.
and it was really hard, and it was like pushing through that was super hard, but to love the person, it takes fortitude to do that.
And that's
sometimes.
beautiful that you bring that up, because a lot of people, I think, or even I sometimes tend to think that they're kind of giving up, or that you would be giving up, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, like, I have to draw this boundary. I'm not going to even try in a way. But it's actually not that, because you know what you want and what you need. And so you're saying for us to work, this has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's out
what's
of
best
love
for
for
both
that
parties.
person. Yeah. And it really is. Fortitude is such a thing of love. Because through standing up for your faith, it all goes back to the community of saints and how we're here to help each other. And through fortitude, you are able to stand up for what is right and to give people that chance to see what no one else will show them. And I think especially for us, like, because we're younger, we have that chance to do it. And we're stronger in our faith than a lot of people because they haven't had the upbringing that we did.
Yeah.
And so because we're given that chance, we're held to a higher responsibility. And we have to go out and we have to say things, you know?
It's interesting how you
Absolutely.
mentioned love, because fortitude really does require love. Because like, if you really want to stand up for the faith, or like, for example, Jesus, like you were saying, like he died for all of us sinners.
Out of love.
Yeah, out of love. Like you have to do it out of love. Like he had so much love. Like he's God, obviously, and he's love itself. And for him to actually die for all of us who betrayed him, who sinned, and who are like completely against him, during that time, like he really did need so much love. And in order to like continue persevering, you actually need love. You need to, for example, love your faith if you want to stand up for your faith. Because if you don't love your faith, you wouldn't be able to stand up for it, obviously. And you need to love the person too, to continue like, evangelizing their example.
Right, because true love is saying what they need to hear. Or saying what they need to hear, not saying what they want to hear.
Exactly,
Doing what's
yeah.
best for them.
Yeah.
Doing what's best
Which
for
is
them.
rough.
Yeah, which requires fortitude, exactly.
Yeah, it requires
Exactly.
fortitude.
I mean,
Have you guys
Yeah.
ever had experiences with that?
Yeah, I've definitely, I mean,
Yeah.
on the receiving end, like
Yeah.
people have come up to me and been like, which I appreciate. And I've talked about this before. If I'm doing something wrong, or if you think I'm like on the path to doing something wrong, I really appreciate it, because I know it must be hard for you, and it's hard for me to hear, and hopefully I'll be humble and like accept it. But it's so good to hear that, and it might make you really dislike that person at that time.
That's
Yeah.
true.
In that moment.
Yeah.
But in the long run, if you are actually trying with your faith, then it will make a huge difference, and that's what we're about, you know? And that's why I think you have to be careful, because you always have to show love, like you were saying. But if you have that relationship with people, then you are able to stand up and really say to them, like a sibling. Like I could go to my sibling now and be like, stop doing that, you need to go to confession. Tell them their sin, and then like we'll always do that. We'll be like, you just sinned, you need to go to confession. So, you know, things like that, where you just have that relationship. But
Yeah, that's a really good thing to have, because speaking out of love and speaking from a stance of fortitude is what everybody needs to hear, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like
what the
Jesus
world
would
needs to
always do that during his earthly life. Like he would always correct, you know, the Pharisees or like the people around him that weren't doing the good.
Yeah,
And then he was
sometimes-
always straightforward. Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't always look like love, but like, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
flipping tables and like
Exactly.
money changers,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people will point that out and be like, it's like angry. And it's
Yeah,
like, no,
or like
that's
calling them
strong and, like,
hypocrites or
exactly,
something.
Yeah, there's righteous anger.
There's
Yeah,
righteous
righteous anger,
absolutely.
yeah. But
And he's
he
God.
was like blunt completely. Like he was like straightforward, like telling the truth. Like he wasn't sugarcoating anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that really does require so much fortitude.
definitely. It's funny how some people just need that too. Like they need to hear it straight out. Like
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
sugarcoat it.
Yeah, because if you do,
can't.
they won't listen.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause
Usually, you should never.
I think
Yeah,
under
exactly.
sugar-coated words, people will just hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But if it's just solid and like strong
Yeah.
with fortitude.
Okay, you know who comes to mind?
Yeah.
I always bring him up.
Uh-huh.
Archbishop Waltonsheen.
Oh, yeah.
Because he would go out there
Yeah.
and he would be yelling at
Uh-huh.
everyone and
Oh
like yelling
my
at the
God.
kids and stuff, but everyone loved him because he was just so honest and
He's so-
straightforward.
Yeah, he
That's
told the
so
He's
truth.
so
good.
trustworthy.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I mean, you would think because he was so mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people would be turned away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
definitely.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even I think a good example, because today is St. Kateri's feast day. I
okay,
think we could
yeah.
even look at her because this is kind of going back to what we were saying before again. But she was surrounded by the Mohawk Indians,
Uh-huh.
and she was Christian or Catholic at the time, I think. I don't know a lot about her story, but
There's
basically,
these two priests that came actually to evangelize
Mm-hmm.
their tribe, but they didn't really like the priests, you know. But they converted Kateri, and then Kateri was standing for her faith, and then you can continue.
Oh
there.
yeah, well, and then I know that it must have been so hard because
Uh-huh.
I was talking to this girl and she was saying that 30 years before they had murdered a saint who had tried to evangelize to them,
wow.
and then she comes and she's Catholic and she had to stand up for what she believed in. She had scars all over her face and wasn't attractive. She was like this girl who no one really cared about, but she did so much for people.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And she was just so beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And her uncle was against her too.
Wow,
Yeah.
I
Like
didn't
against
know
her
that.
faith.
Yeah.
And she had to
and I-
really have a lot of fortitude to
Yeah.
continue standing up for her faith.
And then the heavenly reward, becoming a saint.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Boom.
exactly.
Boom.
Eternal
That's what
glory.
you live for. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Padre Pio, great example of fortitude.
Oh yeah.
During his whole life, he was tormented not only by demons but by unbelievers. Like, oh, he's crazy. He put holes in
Right.
his hands,
Right.
or
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
One. You think that's funny?
The holes in his hands. I don't know. It's weird.
yeah.
Like how's that
kind of
even
weird.
possible?
Exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah. And also Saint Joan of Arc too.
Saint Joan of
Because
Arc.
like she was the leader of the troop, and then
Yeah.
she and like God, like told her that, oh, you're gonna win this battle because I'm with you.
Yeah.
And like just imagine if she wouldn't have the faith.
Yeah. I mean, it
That-
just shows that all saints, it just proves that we all have to fight for this because all
Yeah.
saints had it in a way. Every saint had fortitude
Exactly,
and courage
yeah.
and strength.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they did it, how can we think we don't have to, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's a great subject to end off on. Yeah, everybody, think about the saints. Like, those are such great
Yeah.
examples for everything.
Really good
like the
examples.
cross, like we were saying earlier. Think about the cross, because from the crucifixion, from that story of love, stems all the other virtues, of course. As St. Thomas Aquinas says, he says that at one point in one quote.
Can I add something really quick? I think one of the best ways to build this is by saying the rosary, because through the rosary, like you were saying, we really focus on the passion of Christ and just his life. And by
Yeah.
saying the rosary, each time we say a decade, we're reflecting on the mysteries of Christ. And through that, we are trying to become more like him. And ultimately, that's what fortitude is trying to become like Christ through the gift of the Holy Spirit. So what a better way than...
And you're getting
Holy
closer
Rosary.
to Mary, too.
Yes.
And Mary had a lot of fortitude because she said yes to God to bear his divine son. And
Yes.
she knew that she was going to, you know, be
So
stoned.
look
like,
to the saints, look to Mary, look to the
it was
cross.
possible.
And remember, you
You're
are not
not
alone. Bye.